Episode 12. The Waiting Game. Marcus barely touched his soup. The broth went cold in the bowl as he sat at one of the long tables, watching the doorway, watching the other faces in the shelter. Every time someone new walked in, his heart jumped. Every shadow that passed the frosted windows made his muscles tense. The enforcer was gone, but his presence lingered like smoke. Teresa moved through the dining area with practiced efficiency, clearing empty bowls, refilling coffee cups, offering quiet words of comfort to the regulars who knew this place as their nightly refuge. She paused at Marcus's table, noting his untouched meal. "You should eat," she said softly. "Father Michael's soup is the best thing you'll get today." Marcus looked up at her. She was perhaps 28, with kind eyes and efficient grace that came from years of volunteer work. Her name tag read Teresa beneath the St. Augustine's logo. "Not hungry?" Marcus said. Teresa sat down across from him, uninvited but not unwelcome. "That man who was here earlier," she said, keeping her voice low. "The one Father Michael talked to. I've seen his type before. They come looking for people who don't want to be found." Marcus said nothing. "Whatever you're running from," Teresa continued, "it's safer here than out there. Father Michael doesn't ask questions, but he protects the people who need protection. That's what this place is for." "He found me anyway," Marcus said quietly. "Being here didn't stop that." Teresa nodded slowly. "True, but Father Michael sent him away. That counts for something." Marcus wanted to believe her, but the enforcer's words echoed in his mind. "Wednesday night, Pier 47, 9 o'clock. Don't make us come looking for your friends again." They already knew where Robert and Diane were, hospitalized, vulnerable, under guard by potentially corrupt cops. They knew where Mrs. Rodriguez lived. They'd found Marcus at St. Augustine's despite his careful evasion on the subway. The DeLuca's reach was longer than he'd imagined, their resources deeper, their patience thinner. Wednesday night wasn't a negotiation. It was an execution date. "Thank you," Marcus said to Teresa, "for the soup and the advice." She studied his face for a moment, then stood. "There's coffee in the kitchen if you want it, and the chapel's open all night if you need somewhere quiet to think." After she left, Marcus pushed the bowl away and checked his watch. 7:30. Hutchins had said he was working on a plan for Wednesday morning, something Marcus didn't know about yet. That meant Hutchins had less than 40 hours to coordinate whatever he was planning, and Marcus had to survive that long without getting picked up by the DeLucas or their people. The smart move would be to disappear. Leave the city entirely, take a bus to Philadelphia or Boston, let Hutchins handle the evidence and the story. Marcus had done his part. He'd gotten the evidence to a journalist, just like his father wanted. Walking away now wouldn't be cowardice. It would be survival. But then he thought about Robert and Diane in their hospital beds, about Mrs. Rodriguez in her apartment with the yellow curtains, about his father feeding himself into that factory machine rather than let the DeLucas win. Walking away meant abandoning everyone who'd helped him, everyone who'd believed his father's evidence mattered. Marcus stood and made his way to the small chapel Teresa had mentioned. It was tucked in a corner of the church, separate from the main sanctuary. A quiet space with a dozen wooden pews, flickering votive candles, and a simple altar. The only light came from the candles and the street lamps outside the stained glass windows. He sat in the back pew and tried to think clearly. The DeLucas wanted the evidence back. That was their primary goal. But they also wanted Marcus dead. He was a witness, a liability, someone who knew too much. Wednesday night at Pier 47 would be both, a retrieval operation and an execution. They'd take the evidence and dispose of him, probably dumping his body in the harbor where the current would carry it out to sea. Unless Hutchins had a different plan. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to imagine what his father would do. James Chen had known he was going to die. He'd gathered the evidence anyway, documented everything, made sure it would survive him. He'd chosen truth over safety, justice over survival. And for 20 years, that evidence had waited in Vincent Zhao's safety deposit box, a time bomb waiting for the right moment to explode. Was this the right moment, or was Marcus just getting himself killed for nothing? Footsteps echoed in the chapel. Marcus's eyes snapped open, his body tensing, ready to run. But it was only Father Michael, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might want some, the priest said, handing one to Marcus. Teresa said you looked like you needed it. Marcus accepted the cup gratefully. The coffee was strong and bitter, warming his hands through the ceramic. Father Michael sat in the pew across the aisle, sipping his own coffee. He didn't speak for a long moment, just sat there in the candlelight, waiting. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. Thank you for earlier with that man. I didn't do it for thanks, Father Michael said. I did it because it was right. He'll come back. Maybe, but not tonight. Marcus turned to look at the priest. Father Michael was perhaps 40, with a soft build and kind eyes that had seen too much suffering. His collar was slightly crooked, his cassock worn at the edges. He looked like a man who'd chosen service over comfort, faith over certainty. Why do you do this? Marcus asked. Run a shelter. Protect people you don't know. Ask no questions. Father Michael smiled faintly. Because someone has to. And because I believe that every person matters, regardless of what they've done or what's been done to them. You came here looking for sanctuary. I'm not going to turn you away just because dangerous men are looking for you. You could get hurt. I've been hurt before. Father Michael's tone was matter of fact, not brave or foolish, just honest. Physical pain heals. The pain of turning away someone in need, that stays with you. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. I'm not a good person, Father. I'm not worth protecting. That's not for you to decide. Father Michael's voice was gentle but firm. You're here because you need help. That's enough. They sat in silence for a while, drinking their coffee, listening to the distant sounds of the city outside. Sirens, car horns, the rumble of the subway beneath the streets. Marcus thought about his father again, about the choices that had led to his death. James Chen could have walked away. He could have ignored what he saw in that factory basement, kept his head down, raised his son in safety. But he'd chosen differently. He'd chosen to stand up, to speak out, to document the truth, even knowing it would cost him everything. Marcus was his father's son. Maybe that meant he didn't get to walk away either. Father, Marcus said quietly, if someone did something terrible, killed people, destroyed lives, and you had evidence that could stop them, would you use it? Even if it meant putting yourself in danger? Father Michael considered the question carefully. The Church teaches that we have a moral obligation to protect the innocent and oppose evil. But it also teaches that we shouldn't seek our own destruction needlessly. There's a difference between courage and suicide. What if the only way to stop the evil is to risk your own life? Then you have to decide whether the cause is worth dying for. Father Michael met Marcus's eyes. Only you can make that choice. But remember, martyrdom is only meaningful if your death accomplishes something. Dying for nothing is just waste. Marcus nodded slowly. His father's death had accomplished something. It had preserved the evidence, kept it safe for 20 years until Marcus could bring it to light. But Marcus's death at Pier 47 would accomplish nothing. The DeLucas would take the evidence back, destroy it, and continue their operation. His friends would still be in danger. His father's sacrifice would be erased. Unless Hutchins's plan changed the equation. Marcus finished his coffee and stood. Thank you, Father, for everything. Where will you go? I don't know yet, but I can't stay here. That man knows I'm here, which means others will come. Father Michael stood as well. The shelter is open until 6 in the morning. After that, you're welcome to stay in the church if you need somewhere safe. The doors are always unlocked. Marcus wanted to say something more, to express the gratitude he felt for this stranger's kindness. But words seemed inadequate. Instead, he just nodded and made his way back to the main shelter area. The dining room had emptied out. Most of the men had moved to the sleeping area, a large room lined with cots, each with a thin blanket and pillow. Teresa was still cleaning up, stacking chairs, wiping down tables. She looked up as Marcus entered. There's a cot available in the back corner, she said. Quieter there, less snoring. Marcus managed a small smile. Thanks. He found the cot she'd indicated and sat down, still fully dressed, his canvas bag beside him. Around him, men were settling in for the night, some already asleep, others talking quietly, a few reading dog-eared paperbacks by the dim overhead lights. The room smelled of unwashed bodies and institutional soap, but it was warm and dry, safer than the streets. Marcus lay back on the thin mattress and stared at the ceiling. His mind raced through possibilities, scenarios, plans. He could try to reach Frank Kowalski, but his phone might still be tapped, and leading the DeLucas to Frank would only put another person in danger. He could try to visit Robert and Diane at the hospital, but Officer DeMarco was stationed outside their rooms, and if DeMarco was on the DeLuca payroll, walking into that hospital would be suicide. The only person Marcus could safely contact was Hutchins, and Hutchins had said he was working on something for Wednesday morning. That meant Marcus had to survive Tuesday, stay hidden, avoid the DeLuca's surveillance network, and then somehow he had to be ready for whatever Hutchins had planned. Marcus closed his eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Every sound made him tense. Footsteps in the hallway, doors opening and closing, the distant wail of sirens. He kept seeing the enforcer's face, those cold eyes studying him, memorizing him. Wednesday night, Pier 47. The hours crawled past, midnight, 1 o'clock, 2. Marcus dozed fitfully, jerking awake at every noise, his hand automatically reaching for the canvas bag to make sure it was still there. The evidence that had gotten his father killed, that had put Robert and Diane in the hospital, that had made Marcus a target for one of the most dangerous crime families in New York. At 3:30 in the morning, Marcus gave up on sleep. He sat up on the cot, rubbing his eyes, trying to clear his head. Around him, the shelter was quiet except for snoring and the occasional cough. Teresa had long since gone home. The only person awake was a volunteer night monitor, an older man reading a newspaper by the door. Marcus stood and made his way to the bathroom, an institutional space with chipped tile and rust-stained sinks. He splashed cold water on his face, studying his reflection in the spotted mirror. He looked exhausted, hollow-eyed, older than his 25 years, the face of a man being hunted. When he returned to the sleeping area, he found someone sitting on his cot. Marcus froze, his heart hammering. But it wasn't the enforcer. It was an older man, perhaps 60, with graying hair and a weathered face. He wore a shabby coat and worn boots, the uniform of the streets. "You're the one they're looking for," the man said quietly. Not a question, a statement. Marcus didn't confirm or deny it. "What do you want?" "Nothing. Just wanted to give you a warning." The man's voice was rough, but not unkind. "That guy who came in earlier asking about you. I've seen him before. He works for the DeLuca family. They run most of the docks, some of the unions, protection rackets in Red Hook and Carroll Gardens." Marcus sat down slowly on the adjacent cot. "How do you know?" "I used to work the docks before I ended up here." The man's expression was distant, remembering. "The DeLucas don't forget and they don't forgive. If they're looking for you, you're in serious trouble." "I know. Then you should run. Get out of the city, tonight." Marcus shook his head. "I can't. Not yet." The man studied him for a long moment. "Whatever you're carrying, whatever you have that they want, it's not worth your life, kid." "It is," Marcus said quietly. "It has to be." The man sighed and stood. "Then God help you, because no one else will." He shuffled back to his own cot, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts. The rest of the night passed in a blur of half-sleep and anxiety. At 6 o'clock, the lights came on and people began stirring. Teresa returned, looking fresh despite the early hour, and started organizing breakfast. Coffee, toast, hard-boiled eggs. The smell of coffee filled the shelter, cutting through the stale air. Marcus forced himself to eat. He needed energy, needed to stay sharp. Tuesday stretched ahead of him, a full day to survive before Wednesday's confrontation. He had to find a way to contact Hutchins, to learn what the plan was, to coordinate his role in whatever trap they were setting. But first, he had to get out of St. Augustine's without being followed. Father Michael found him at the breakfast table. "You're leaving?" "I have to." "Where will you go?" "Better if you don't know, Father." Father Michael nodded, understanding. "There's a back exit through the kitchen. It leads to an alley that connects to the next street over. Might help you avoid anyone watching the front." Marcus felt a surge of gratitude. "Thank you." "Be careful, Marcus. Whatever you're involved in, it's bigger than you realize." Marcus finished his coffee and made his way to the kitchen. The back door was exactly where Father Michael had said, a heavy metal door that opened onto a narrow alley piled with garbage bags and empty boxes. The morning air was cold and damp, the sky overcast and threatening rain. Marcus stepped into the alley and pulled the door closed behind him. He was alone. temporarily free, but the clock was ticking. 36 hours until Wednesday night. 36 hours to prepare for whatever came next. He adjusted the canvas bag on his shoulder and started walking, heading north toward the subway station. Behind him, St. Augustine's faded into the morning mist. Ahead, somewhere in the vast sprawl of the city, Hutchins was coordinating a plan that Marcus could only hope would work. Because if it didn't, Wednesday night at Pier 47 would be the end of everything.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.